Now on the CTV News at 5, what the province's education property tax hike means for Lethbridge residents. Plus, the Premier says a petition to recall her from her seat in the legislature has failed. And another crash at a Lethbridge bridge.
Telling your stories. CTV News Lethbridge with Jackie Scantlebury.
Good afternoon. We're glad you could join us. We are getting more details about the impact this year's provincial budget is having on Lethbridge. The Alberta government is increasing the provincial education tax in Lethbridge by nearly 13% this year. And as Carson Marsouk reports, infrastructure funding for the city is continuing to shrink.
Property owners in Lethbridge will be paying 12.9% more to the provincial government when they pay their taxes this year.
We are currently estimating that for the average single-family residential property in Lethbridge, assessed at approximately $389,000, this change represents about a $117 increase in 2026.
The increase is a result of more funding for education in Alberta, according to the province. Last month, the province announced it was facing a $9.4 billion deficit.
That is just a shocking property tax increase that is going to be thrown onto the backs of homeowners and property taxpayers here in Lethbridge. It's gross, actually.
All municipalities will see an increase. The City of Medicine Hat says residents will see an 8.7% increase, about $83 more for a medium assessed home at $359,000. Chris Sims with the Canadian Taxpayers Federation says the percentage can decrease if the province decides to move money around or oil prices rise.
They could have gone through the budget with a fine-tooth comb, reduced the size and cost of their own government. They could have taken a page out of the Fraser Institute's report and gone back to the size of government pre-2020. That would have saved them billions of dollars. And now they're trying to put through this sneaky tax increase on property owners, blaming the cities for it, and people can't afford it.
The province is funding $43 million for water and wastewater. However, it is not directly allocated to Lethbridge.
Although we're not necessarily, to answer your question, that I've seen today inside of the reports directly, we have seen where programs at different times of the year will open up, and we can apply for different things. And in previous have been successful.
But overall infrastructure funding to the city continues to decrease.
When viewed over a longer time horizon, combined MSI and LGFF funding between 2022 and 2031 is expected to average approximately $13.3 million annually for the city, which is about 37% lower than the average provincial infrastructure funding we received in the previous decade. As a result, LGFF funding alone will not be sufficient to offset the city's existing infrastructure pressures.
Carson Marsouk, CTV News, Lethbridge.
Provincial funding has also been announced for the planning and engineering phases for safety upgrades and the widening of the Highway 3 bridge over the Oldman River. Money has also been allocated for intersection improvements at the Colehurst and Highway 3 intersection and to improve passing lanes on Highway 5 between McGrath and Lethbridge. Now, the Canadian Taxpayers Federation says it's not just property owners that will be impacted by the education increased taxes. So will renters. The increase has not yet come into effect, which has resulted in rental prices in Lethbridge being the 7th most affordable on a new report. Now, according to rentals.ca, a one-bedroom unit in the city has dropped 1.3% to $1,300 a month. A two-bedroom unit remained steady at $1,500 per month. However, the company says further drops in rent prices could be on the way.
We don't expect demand to really spike up because, if we just look at the estimates from the federal government, looks like population growth is going to remain relatively flat. So 2026 might be a renter's market, and of course, that's a good thing for those out there.
Medicine Hat was also among the most affordable rental cities in Canada, with an average price of $1,364 a month. A petition to recall Premier Danielle Smith from her seat in the legislature has failed. The petition organizer says they gathered 2,300 signatures. About 12,000 were needed to move the process forward. In a statement, Smith thanked her constituents in Brooks, Medicine Hat. The Premier is one of 24 UCP and 2 NDP MLAs who were subject to recall petitions. None so far have gathered the needed signatures. Alberta's NDP leader tabling a vote of non-confidence in the UCP government over the ongoing separatism debate. It comes as business leaders and Indigenous leaders raise concerns about the impacts. NDP leader Naheed Nenshi introduced that motion yesterday, accusing the government of failing to reject separatist rhetoric. But the UCP moved quickly to shut down debate in the legislature. The motion argues that separatism talk is damaging relations with First Nations and incompatible with treaty rights. It comes after the Assembly of Treaty Nation Chiefs unanimously voted non-confidence in the UCP government, saying any separation referendum would infringe on treaties signed with the Crown, not the province. More than a dozen First Nation chiefs gathered at the legislature yesterday to speak out.
We are doing something that we will not stand for any of this talk of separation. We knew that the vote wouldn't pass. We knew what we were in for when we came to this legislature. We've seen it time and time again, the disrespect that the MLAs have for our people in those rooms.
Meanwhile, a new survey for the Alberta Chamber of Commerce suggests the debate may also be hitting the economy. More than half of Calgary businesses say talk of separation is impacting that economy. 93% of those respondents say the effect is negative. Businesses also say separatism is a bigger concern right now than tariffs, pipelines, or costs. Danielle Savoni is here, and that means it is time to talk about the forecast. Danielle, what have you got for us?
All right, so we talked about today, late in the day, having some isolated flurries pop up, and that's exactly what's happening. Again, this is nothing significant, nothing to worry about, but don't be surprised over these next 2 hours or even 3 hours. You may see a couple snowflakes out there. Short-lived, anyway. Checking out temperatures, well, fairly similar. Lethbridge around that freezing mark for a high yesterday. Similar thing for today. We got just above freezing, and we're still above that. Medicine Hat at 2 right now. Brooks at 3, -2 in Pincher Creek. We do have some very wintry weather on the way once again, and a decent snowfall. And in many cases, many people will have to shovel once again. We'll talk more about that coming up, Jackie.
All right, thanks, Danielle. Lethbridge police have upgraded the charges against a 56-year-old man following an impaired driving collision that has now resulted in the death of an elderly pedestrian. Police say just before 4 p.m. on March 2nd, a Dodge Ram truck was traveling east on 3rd Avenue and proceeded to turn southbound on 13th Street when it hit a 78-year-old man. Police say the driver showed signs of impairment. The victim was taken to hospital with serious head injuries and then later transferred to Calgary. Sadly, on March 6th, the man died from his injuries. Joseph Cameron Brewster is now charged with impaired driving causing death. He'll appear in court next month. Another vehicle has hit a Lethbridge bridge, and this time the CPKC Railway overpass was hit. Shortly after noon today, officers were called to the railroad bridge at Mayor McGrath Drive South and Highway 3. It appears the load was too high for a tow truck that was hauling another truck used to cut trees. Now, a chunk of concrete and the bridge was missing. Northbound traffic was shut down for about an hour and a half. There are no reports of any injuries, fortunately. Well, there still may be snow on the ground, but Alberta has officially entered wildfire season, and it won't take as long as you might think for the fire risk to ramp right up. Quinn Keenan has more.
The latest snowfall in southern Alberta is quickly melting. Soon the ground will be dry once again. That's when the risk of wildfire starts to ramp up.
Before the snow yesterday, I checked the numbers, and our numbers were already extreme. It happens in the city that quick. So as much as we don't want this snow and things like that, it actually does serve a purpose too and helps us out a little bit.
Southern Alberta's notorious wind and dry conditions are ideal for fires to spread quickly. It's something fire departments always have to be thinking of. The threat of a fire still exists even in the middle of winter.
We actually are preparing all the time. Wildfire risk in the county is pretty much our number one risk. So to say that, the weather is actually cooperating with us right now, and it sounds like between March and April we're going to have higher amounts of precipitation.
The Lethbridge region has seen a drier than usual winter up until this point. This latest batch of precipitation came at the right time to keep the fire risk lower, at least for the time being. But it likely won't be long until the ground is dry again.
Just keep an eye on it. If next the moisture is gone and everything dries out, we are trying, and we don't like putting a fire ban on. I try to hold off as long as I can. I want people to be able to enjoy the river valley.
Even with extra moisture on the ground, fire officials are asking residents to be careful. Mishandled fire pits and smoking materials could easily start fires. Machinery out in farmers' fields for seeding also presents an extra risk.
We're always preparing, and we're always trying to remind residents in the rural community that, when it does come to seeding, make sure that you're checking for hot spots and you're making sure that you're always cognitive of your equipment and making sure you're cleaning it and making sure that we have fire safety in the forefront.
In 2025, Alberta had over 670,000 hectares of land burned by wildfires. Quinn Keenan, CTV News, Lethbridge.
Alberta farmers could soon feel the impacts of the war in Iran, including cost to buy fertilizer, while grocery store owners are bracing for potential added manufacturing and transportation costs. Amanda Anderson reports.
The conflict in the Middle East and threats from Iran's military has cut off shipments through the Strait of Hormuz, a region that produces and ships massive amounts of oil, liquefied natural gas, and fertilizer.
We could anticipate seeing increased costs for fertilizer.
Fertilizer is one of our biggest input costs year to year, like every year. And so if we get say, for instance, if urea goes up 30% or in 1 year, that's a significant impact to our bottom line.
Kevin Bender has a farm near Bentley, Alberta. He says many farmers try to buy fertilizer and store it when there's a hint prices could go up.
We didn't know that this big spike was going to happen, but I'd say most years we see an increase in fertilizer prices coming into spring. So people will buy in the fall or through the winter and help minimize any cost increases that might occur.
Bender says farmers always find a way to manage, and it could mean planting crops that don't require the same fertilizer product. He also says rising diesel prices will have a minimal impact on his farm. At the Italian Centre shop in Edmonton, Teresa Spinelli is keeping a close eye on oil prices.
Last time this happened, when there was a boom in Alberta with the oil prices going over $100 a barrel, we noticed that our freight company started charging a surcharge for the extra gas, and then we also noticed that our suppliers started charging more, especially if they're production and they're using oil and gas.
Costs the shop tries not to pass on to customers. Spinelli says it could be weeks before she knows how oil prices will impact her costs. Supply chain consultant Brent Willett believes the impacts on consumers will be very small compared to what they faced during COVID.
COVID was also about scarcity, not just pricing. We're not going to have a scarcity issue. What we could have is cost impacts along those supply chains. So going forward, organizations, specifically those in Canada, are much more resilient than they were 6 years ago.
Amanda Anderson, CTV News, Edmonton.
Time zone changes is on the meeting agenda this Thursday for the Regional District of East Kootenay. The RDEK will be discussing whether they'll remain on Mountain Time in sync with Alberta year-round or remain on BC's new Pacific Time, staying on Daylight Saving Time year-round, ending time changes in March and November. Over the weekend, British Columbians sprang forward for the last time. However, the province left it up to municipalities in the southeast corner of the province to decide their own fate. The RDEK says it's in the process of getting feedback from local communities. 4 outstanding alumni are being recognized by Lethbridge Polytechnic, the post-secondary institution, announcing its 2026 Honoring Excellence Awards today. Daryl Jarina has been named the Distinguished Alumni, while David Murin is the Career Virtuoso recipient. Business Administration alumni Tristan Mercer has been named Community Leader for 2026, and the Rising Star recipient is Ivan Jamengi. The 4 recipients will be recognized at a ceremony next month. Well, we check back in with Danielle Savoni after this break for the 5-day forecast. Plus, there are calls for changes to colorectal screening. We're back in 2 minutes.
All right, here's a sky cam facing west. Pretty cool looking shot right there. You know, as you heard about earlier in the show, we need the moisture that's definitely in our forecast. March, southern Alberta, it's our snowiest month of the year, and this week will definitely reflect that. And I'll show you that in the long range in just a moment. But first, quick look at temperatures once again. -2 in Pincher Creek, +2 in Lethbridge and Medicine Hat, 4 in Brooks, and sitting at that freezing mark in Milk River. So in the far south, it's pretty mild for this time of year, and it's going to get a little warmer tomorrow ahead of this next storm. All right, here's what's happening. We have these little pockets of snow and tracking off to the east. You can also see they're dying out as they head to the east, but there is the potential of some isolated flurries here and there as we head through the next 3 hours. and then things will clear out and set us up for a fairly bright day and a warm day for tomorrow ahead of the storm that's on the way. And in fact, there's multiple systems on the way. We're looking at a consistent feed of moisture from the southwest, and that means snowfall on and off through the next 5 days or so. Okay, I'll show you the futurecast because Thursday is really, or Wednesday night, Thursday is really the big bang here. All right, you can see the snow in the mountains really starting to make their way in and onto the Alberta side. This is Wednesday night. So we're looking at picking up some snow, especially further to the southwest Wednesday night. And then that will make its way in late in the overnight hours in through Thursday morning. It will be intense at times. You can see it predominantly to the north, but we will still see some heavy snowfall in many communities in the far south. As we get into Thursday, temperatures, daytime highs will get close to that freezing mark, -1, even 0 in some cases, which is why we may even see some rain mixed in with this, even some freezing rain as well. Plus we'll have snowfall on top of that and underneath that. So we are looking at very slick driving conditions Wednesday night and through Thursday. When we look at totals and how long this will last right through on and off through Thursday. Amounts are looking like this. This is what you can expect. About 5 centimeters in Lethbridge combined with a couple millimeters of rain. Milk River 15 centimeters, about 6 centimeters for Medicine Hat, 16 for Okotoks. So quite a range. Basically what you can look at, you're going to get enough that you'll have to shovel from this, and it will be on and off and the roads will be pretty slick. East Kootenay area tonight, -3 with a wind chill of -8, which is your wind chill for the morning hours, and a few flurries possible tomorrow, especially closer to that noon hour, and a high of 3 expected. Crozes Pass, 2 centimeters closer to the BC border, expected for tonight, and then tomorrow we'll see some snow. I don't know why that says night snow, but we'll see some flurries for tomorrow, but mainly just cloudy skies and 2. It's tomorrow night that we'll get the snow. All right, overnight -7. 40 kilometer per hour gusts in Medicine Hat. We're looking at partly cloudy skies and sunshine and high of 6. So a nice day tomorrow, but by tomorrow night, that's when the snow creeps in. Same idea for Lethbridge. Tomorrow night is when the snow creeps in. So until then, you're looking at a pretty nice day. It will be a little windy, but it shouldn't be excessively windy. 5 centimeters of snow possible Wednesday night, and through Thursday, another 5 to 10 centimeters of snow. And by Thursday, as you can see, much cooler as well. This will usher in a cooler air mass that's here for 3 days. -1 is the high for Thursday.
There are calls today to lower the age for routine colorectal screening in Canada. Colorectal Cancer Canada wants provinces and territories to commit to lowering the screening age to 45 for average risk Canadians.
Over the last decade, more than 18,000 Canadians under the age of 50 have been diagnosed with the disease. These are people in the prime of their lives, raising families, building careers, and contributing to their communities. And far too often, their cancers are diagnosed too late because routine screening begins too late.
The organization says the change would reflect the rising rate of the disease among younger adults. The Canadian Cancer Society reported in November that colorectal cancer was expected to be the 4th most commonly diagnosed cancer in Canada in 2025, and the 3rd leading cause of death from cancer in both men and in women. Still ahead on the CTV News at 5. One of Canada's best curlers is now officially retired. We look back at Brad Gushu's curling legacy next in sports. The Medicine Hat Tigers are back in action tonight, fresh off claiming another Central Division title. They're at home hosting the Regina Pats. Medicine Hat has dominated Regina this season. The Tigers will look to sweep the season series with a win tonight. Medicine Hat sits just 2 points back of the Prince Albert Raiders for the top seed in the Eastern Conference. Game time tonight is at 7. A University of Lethbridge athlete is getting national recognition. 4th-year track and field star Janae Shomachuk has been named U Sports Field Athlete of the Year. She's the first Pronghorns athlete to ever win the award. Shomachuk had a dominant season, going undefeated in shot put and weight toss. She won gold for both events at the Canada West Championships. In the U Sports National Championship, she broke the U Sports record in the weight throw to win a gold medal. She also added a silver medal for shot put at the U Sports Championship to round out her season. Brad Gushue is one of curling's biggest stars and one of the sport's most decorated. Now he has thrown his final rock, finishing his last national championship in his hometown of St. John's. Garrett Barry with a recap of an extraordinary career.
It's the end of an era in Newfoundland and Labrador. One of the province's premier athletes for more than 20 years is saying goodbye now to hometown fans who supported him through it all.
The final bow for curling legend Brad Gushue. Certainly the most decorated athlete to call Newfoundland and Labrador home. 6 national championships, a world title, an Olympic gold and bronze. Arguably the greatest Canadian curler ever.
You know, I think everybody just wants to feel loved and appreciated, and certainly this week I felt the love and the appreciation from everybody here.
His swan song ended this weekend. A push for a 7th national championship fell just short of the podium. Not on top, but he got to go out on home turf because this year the Brier, the National Men's Curling Championship, was held in St. John's.
This community has been amazing for me over the course of my career, and I've had some great supporters from my family, obviously my teammates, our support staff. I'm very lucky, very fortunate. I'm going to miss this.
But he says after decades of competing, it's time to step away from the travel and grind that is professional sport and spend more time with his family. In Newfoundland and Labrador, it's going to be hard to imagine a world without Brad Gushue.
It's just been amazing. It's been amazing, and he's going to be missed, a lot.
We have just loved watching him over the years, couldn't get enough of it. I am a diehard Brad fan, and I hope to see him coaching.
Longtime teammate Mark Nichols has been by Brad Gushue's side for all of those accomplishments. There's no word yet on whether he is also putting his curling shoes away and stepping back from the competitive game. Garrett Barry, CTV News, St. John's.
Still ahead on the CTV News at 5, we'll show you some incredible ice art done right here in Alberta. Alberta's wintry landscape has caught the eye of an international artist. This is the mesmerizing work of David Popa on Abraham Lake, just over 3 hours northwest of Calgary in the Nordegg area. Famous for its frozen methane bubbles, Popa used only chalk and charcoal to create his art. Popa partnered with Travel Alberta to create 3 pieces over 12 days, 2 on Abraham Lake and the other in Klein River Canyon. He says he is so grateful to have worked on Alberta's natural canvas, but also called it grueling.
My hand felt like it was going to fall off by the end of that day. That I literally could not, there was not a second to lose. It was like 0 to 3 degrees. So it was either like windy and then my chalk or charcoal would freeze on the surface, then it would warm up because of the sun.
He also faced intense wind gusts and said it only took 1 day for the wind to make his artwork disappear. Thank you for sharing this time with us. Now here's the early edition of the CTV National News.